This episode of Rec League Pros podcast is sponsored by Anchor. I've reiterated this in so many different episodes now, which is really just 3, but I'm going to say it again in this episode as well too. You want to start a podcast and you don't know how to, go to Anchor. It's absolutely free to sign up, 0 minimum listenership to start making money today with free sponsorships, and on top of that too, you can edit right from the website or the app. It's the easiest navigation that I've seen so far, and I've been super impressed by the website from the past few episodes that I've had uploaded onto the Anchor website. So what you're going to do today is you're going to go to anchor.fm, or you're going to download the Anchor app and get started creating your own podcast today. Again, go to the Anchor website, which is anchor.fm, or download the Anchor app and get started today. Let's get right into the intro. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rec League Pros podcast. Thank you guys for your patience. First of all, I know it's been about a week or so since my last upload. It's been a crazy past couple weeks in terms of, seeing family for the 4th and, obviously work and so on. So thank you guys for your patience. Obviously, this isn't my normal uploading day that I've been doing, which is Friday. But we're going to try and get back on schedule again. I am new to this, so keep that in mind. No excuses, though. If you guys haven't done so, though, please check out my last episode. It was with none other than Visera, who I met way back. Actually, not way back, but a couple years back in the Cape League as interns. Had the pleasure of seeing him, develop as a writer, and not only has he done that, but he's been in front of the mic. He's been in front of the mic now as well too. He has his own podcast, which was the reason, as I've said, that has been kind of my inspiration of doing my own podcast. So. If you haven't watched that episode, check it out. It's awesome, available on all platforms and on YouTube as well too. And if you haven't done so as well, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rec League Pros. Turn on the notification bell as well too, and feel free to comment any feedback as well too for the episode. It's been a lot of fun, but I'd love to hear some feedback and things I could obviously improve on, or what people would like to see, whether it comes to, guests, graphics, so on. And it's going to be a learning process, but I definitely want to try and make this as enjoyable to watch for the viewer as possible. My next guest that I had the pleasure of having hop on the podcast, none other than Tiffany Verni. She is a Long Island native, alumni from New York Institute of Technology, and also had a brief stint at Dowling College before it shut down. She has a pretty incredible story. I've known Tiff for about, I want to say like almost close to 3 years now. Her boyfriend is one of my very close friends who was also on the podcast, Jake LaBelle. And if you haven't watched that episode, check that out too. But, it's pretty incredible to see what type of athlete she really was. She dominated the volleyball game in the ECC conference. Since graduating from Tech, she's just finished up grad school at the University of New Hampshire, where she was a graduate assistant for the volleyball team. And she's just recently taken a job for the University of New Haven in Connecticut. So congrats to her. Her journey has been very incredible to see, and I think the sky's the limit for her, considering the work ethic she puts in, and the knowledge and talent, and kind of the optimistic outlook on the game of volleyball itself, and just the trials and tribulations she's had to go through as a player, from having her first school she went to in Dowling College shut down, and then New York Institute of Technology's volleyball program getting cut from the NYIT as she was graduating. So it's a whirlwind of emotions for her, and she's always kind of stayed upbeat, and I think is for this podcast going to be very relatable for a lot of athletes that have had similar situations as well too. But without further ado, Rec League Pros episode 4 with Tiffany Verni. Let's get right into it. Here it is. Oh yeah. I will say this though. I was gonna do some research and look at all your stats and shit like that. You have no stats anymore because both your schools are just not doing. I mean, one got shut down and the other one, no athletics anymore. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. That's like pretty much the story of my life. Like, it's like, did I even play in college? Who knows, you know?
Well, I find it like hilarious, right? Because you were like an all-conference player of the year, like what, twice?
So, yeah, I mean, I was all conference for 3 years, so at Tech, and then I got player of the year my senior year.
Okay. So regardless, no evidence of that anymore, which is like, it's crazy that's crazy to me, especially with Tech, because like they just shut down their whole athletics webpage. I was like, well, I'm like dumbfounded by that. But we'll get into more of that like later on. But I want to start at like the very beginning with you,
Okay.
because you're from where in Long Island are you from, like originally?
Yeah, so I'm from Patchogue.
Okay.
So, like, South Shore, Suffolk County, Patchogue, yeah.
Okay, so what's like, I mean, I've only gotten a taste of Long Island once. What's it actually like living in Long Island?
I like it. You know, I never knew anything different other than living there, and I just think being around a lot of people, I just like that. Like, definitely moving up here to Maine was a big jump for me. Like, just change of, atmosphere. People are talking to you in the grocery stores, like that just like doesn't really happen on Long Island. But I liked growing up. I think like definitely you have a lot more access to opportunities and was able to try a lot of different things. Like, I did gymnastics for like 14 years before I, switched to doing volleyball, and, just being able to try out a bunch of different stuff, like having just access, I think was really good.
Okay, so you didn't play volleyball growing up then, like starting out?
Yeah, so I actually didn't even know that volleyball was like a sport that you could play. Like, I don't know. I was just honestly like, and I loved it. And so I did gymnastics, and then I broke my wrist. And then from doing that like over 40 hours a week all the time, I was like, I really want to try, different sports. I want to have friends. Because like I just had friends in the gym, I didn't really have any friends like outside because I never had time. And so then once I broke my wrist, I quit gymnastics and then started, that was the time middle school sports were starting. And so I joined, I started playing um, volleyball and stuff in middle school, and then basketball, and I tried out lacrosse and softball, so I kind of like really tried out every sport. And then once I got to high school, I was like, okay, I want to do volleyball. And then it wasn't until 10th grade that I actually played club volleyball. So, and I was like, okay, this is the sport I want to play in college. Like, I like want to go far with this. So then that's when I really like playing on an outside team and stuff like that.
Okay. So, and then the other question I was going to ask too is like, how many high schools are in Long Island? Because it's a like, to me it's like it's this small like island right outside of like New York City, but it's like there's like, first of all, there's a million different colleges that are there, and then there's a bunch of towns that I didn't even think of. So how many high schools would you say, or is there just too many to count?
There's so many. I don't like, each town has its own high school, and then like there's private high schools, there's like prep schools and stuff, like Catholic schools. So there's like like I couldn't even estimate how many high schools, but in our like league, I guess, that we played against, it went obviously based off of like school size, and I think there was like 5 or 6 teams. No, there's definitely like maybe like 6 or 7 teams, I would say. Like in our area that were like the same size as us, and we would play against them
Okay.
for sports or something.
All right. So you went so where'd you go to high school? What was the name of the high school again? I
Dog
like
Medford.
okay.
Yes.
So and did you play all 4 years of volleyball there, or did you just
Yeah.
do a couple? Okay.
Yeah. So I was on JV my freshman year, and then varsity my sophomore through senior year. And then I was actually a middle in volleyball. And then my club coach was like, "You're 5'8", like you're 5'7". If you want to play in college as a successful volleyball player, like yes, you can jump, but you're gonna need to switch to the outside or something like that. I can have more chance, I guess, at because
Yeah.
although I can jump, like, but people are taller, obviously, that play volleyball, and in the middle, you need to be able to like move and block, and they're like, by the time, yes, you can jump high and block as high, but by the time that you land and you're moving, like somebody's already doing something. So that's when I like to the outside, which I really, fit better as an outside, but
Well, I mean, you're pretty tall too, so like that helps. Like even though like you're not like tall for like someone that's at the net, like for someone that's like, in that area, in that position you're in, it looks like from like the volleyball games I went to, it's like most of those girls are like they're not like overly short, but it's like they're not as tall as you either. So I think that's something you had to your advantage at the time, I would assume.
yeah, I think like I around like my friends and everybody, like I'm the shortest with like volleyball, and even like so as an outside, yes, you could be like on the shorter side because you like my hops obviously helps me like jump and
Yeah.
everything, but and like be successful, but I think like definitely I'm on the shorter side of volleyball players in general, like at 5'7", 5'8" on like a good day. Like I'm not kidding, which is surprising because for normal, like not normal, but like for the female height, I'm definitely on the higher side, but around my volleyball friends, I'm literally the shortest out of everyone.
Then Franklin Pierce had a small volleyball team then, because like the girls I were playing like at your position were like maybe at the like they were like maybe like 5'6" or so,
Yeah.
like at the tallest, but like not like close to like 5'8", 5'9". Like that's like you can't say you're short. That's the
I
thing
mean, but
though.
I'm more on the
You're
five
you're,
seven
you're
side.
that's like all right. That's in a sense of like me saying like I'm not short,
Yeah.
but I mean my best friend is your boyfriend, and he's 6 foot freaking four. So it's like I always feel short because I'm always around a taller person on a consistent basis. So it's like I guess I see where like you're saying, but like you're also wrong. So
No, well, I just say that because like I'm more on the 5'7" side. Like I like to say I'm 5'8" to make it seem like I'm taller, but like that's like a good day for me that I'm 5'8". Like it is more on the 5'7" side, but
I would say you're
I
5'8".
guess
I
we'll
would
see.
say you're 5'8".
All right,
I
we'll take.
usually I usually well like on a good day for me then I'm 6 feet, but I'm technically every time I go to the doctor's office they're like I'm like, oh, how tall am I this time, doc? On like, your physical or your yearly checkup, and they're like, oh, you're still at 5'11" and a half. It's like you can't give me the half inch. Like seriously, like you're an asshole. Yeah, but um, so the next question I have for you is like the recruiting process for you. So because you went to Dowling first, that was your ultimate choice. Um, was it always like Division 2 you were looking at, or did you have aspirations of playing Division 1 volleyball?
I think at the time that I was getting recruited, I was just trying to go somewhere. Like I did just kind of reach out to a bunch of different places. I knew I didn't want to go to like a big school. Like I don't think I would have done well at like a just a big school at the time. So I was really looking for like a smaller school, like yeah, kind of around I guess that D2 level. And at the time that I was really reaching out, it was like most of the D1s already had their rosters, like filled, like they had already recruited for my class at least. So I really didn't, decide that that was what I wanted to do, like I said, I started playing 10th grade, like seriously in club, so it was just kind of like I was kind of late to the late to the party, but I do love the decision. I love the D2 level, and that's like where I, now want to coach at. I just love, just that environment. I think it's a great balance of like being a student and being an athlete. So I really liked, that. And I think when I was just kind of reaching out to schools, like a bunch of them when I was at tournaments, but then Dowling kind of found me though. Like my coach showed up to my last high school game and was like, "Hey, you want to come, on an official visit to Dowling?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, and then I went and then I practiced with the team. And then literally that day, he's like, "Hey, you wanna come here? Like full ride?" I was like, "Sure," um, so yeah, I did that. And then it was kind of like it all happened so quick, like within literally a week, I want to say. So, um, and then yeah, that was really my process. I didn't have really like too.
So you didn't have like a couple schools that you were like, all right, I'm gonna pick between A, B, C, and D. It was like,
Yeah, I did have a couple schools. Like I really liked Adelphi. I went and visited there and like I loved Adelphi. And so it was kind of like all in the East region, like D2 schools, I would say. I can't remember. Honestly, that was so long ago. I can't remember. Like, just I've been dealing
yeah.
with so many different schools since then. But yeah, I just knew that was like the one. Like Dowling was like I was like, okay, this is where I want to go, and then the search kind of ended there. So.
Okay. So what was Dowling like though? Because I mean, you're only there for what, like 2 years or maybe a year? 1 year?
1 year, my freshman year, and then the spring after my freshman year, the school closed. It was like a Tuesday. They emailed us and they said doors are closing on Friday. Get all your stuff, get your transcripts, and the doors are closing for good. Like that's the thing. It was pretty crazy. It was like they emailed staff, students, faculty, everybody found out at the same time that the school was closing.
Was there any idea that that the school was shutting down, or it
Um,
was
No, like there was always rumors that like the school was in, money problems, but like nothing ever came of that. Like it was always just like a rumor. And then literally until that day where they sent us an email, I remember I was working at a physical therapy office and I got an email from Dowling on my phone and I read it and it literally was like, "Dear faculty, students, staff, like we're closing the doors. Like there's no more there's gonna be no more like college like to go to." And so then I just like started crying. Like it was crazy because freshman year is tough. You go to a college, you make your friends, like you're trying to fit in, and then finally that's where I got. I was so, like loved it, was so happy, made all my friends, like was at a really good spot, like preparing for the next year, and then they just kind of were like, "Nope, we're not even gonna exist as a school anymore." So
holy shit. Uh,
yeah.
wow. So the official announcement was like in the spring?
Yeah, so it was in the spring. I think it was like May, like end of May, or beginning of June. Either it was definitely like within
It
that.
was towards the end of the school year.
Yeah, no, literally at the end of the school year. Like school year was done, everyone moved out, and then we were like home kind of for the summer. And then they literally threw an email is
Yeah.
how everyone found out, and then it was all over the news because like I lived on Long Island, so then like the
Right.
news was covering it. Everyone was freaking out. It was
Right.
pretty traumatic, I have to say.
See, that's pretty crappy to me, because it's like you get into this situation, right, where you have all these students, and like the people that are like maybe like on the board of trustees, like the president of the school, stuff like that, like they had to have known like much earlier. It's like this school's going to be shut down by the end of the year. It's like, in like, not to give like at least a heads up, so you can give your students enough time to like transfer to another school for the fall or the spring. Like that's shitty. I
Yeah.
would be so mad.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty hectic, and I say traumatic because it was like May and volleyball season starts in August, and most places, some places even start in July, like
Right.
with like camps and everything. So it was like, oh my gosh, like now I have to not only transfer but find a team that has a spot for me as an outside hitter, like, for this upcoming season, and I need to be able to transfer. Like at that time, so for the East Coast Conference, if you transferred in conference, then you would have to sit a year. Like there was all this stuff, but because the school shut down and we couldn't go, there was like a waiver. So we kind of got like a free, like I just, obviously went to Tech and then just played the next season because there was no option for me to go back to Dowling. So,
Right.
just working out all that kind of stuff was just crazy because it's like, where do you go? Like, just, it was madness, but
Right.
it all worked out.
So, and then that gets me into my next question too, is you obviously went to Tech.
Mhm.
Um, was that the only school that kind of just had a spot for you and wanted you, or was there a couple other places too?
Yeah, so it was actually really cool, I think. Like it was the opposite of when you're trying to get recruited, like, and you're reaching out to them or something. Like as in high school, like everybody heard about what happened to Dowling, and then people just started, like, I was just getting calls every day, like from a new coach, like, hey, like we heard what happened, we're so sorry. Like they wanted me, they wanted my teammates, like, because everyone loves transfers. Like as a coach, you want transfers, and like Dowling, we were a good team, so like people wanted us. So like they were like, four of my teammates went and played D1 from my team at Dowling once it closed. So, you know, everyone was just trying to go places, and I really wanted to go to NYIT because they had just won the regional and made it to the Elite 8 during that, like, my freshman season. So I knew they had like a good program, a good team, like, and I knew like one of their outsides was hurt or not coming back, and so I knew I could kind of just fill that spot. And that's, when Gail called me, I was on the beach, and then she was like, hey, you want to come to NYIT? And I was like, yes. And then so then it kind of just, that was
Yeah.
my like first thing. Like it happened again, like so quick, like, but I knew that that's where I wanted to go. So it made it really, easy for me.
Right. And she's kind of a household name as a volleyball coach too, because from what I recall, and from what Jake's told me over like the years, like she has like a track record for like bringing Tech to like deep NCAA playoff runs, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that must have been like probably a confidence boost for you too then.
Yeah, I mean, she was in her 33rd or 34th season when I, like, during my time, like, it was like around her 30th, seasons and stuff like that. So she had been there for a while, well established coach. And like you said, yeah, they, had a history of going to the NCAA tournament, and, they had never won the like the conference championship. So that was like the goal, the next year, because they did just make it to the Elite Eight. It was to repeat that, to obviously go back to the Elite Eight. That was our goal. But also to win that conference championship that they never got. And then, that first season that we were able to do that. So, I knew that I was going to go to a place where, they had a history of winning and, good culture, and kind of just, hope to continue that. So.
Yeah. Now there's pros and cons too, I always feel like with like transfer athletes, because it's like you have, pro in a sense for like the coach. It's like a lot of the time, like it's usually like it's a real, it's like, for instance, your situation where it's like you have a school that shuts down and you're a really good player and they're like, oh, we want to take you and so on. But there's always, I always feel like the con to it as well too, where it's like you get a really good transfer player, right? And your team, there's like a sense of jealousy because it's like, like, oh, like she or he's going to take my spot. And like, then there's like a sense of resentment. Was that like ever the case when for you at all, or?
No, so that was actually like my biggest fear, especially transferring within the conference, because at Dowling, like we obviously played NYIT, and I was like, I'm from Dowling, like these girls aren't gonna like me, like they're gonna know, like they're just not gonna like me, because, like, I don't know, it's just you're competing against them. They're always my competition. So, coming in, that was literally my biggest fear. I said to Gail, and she's like, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. So, it ended up working out, and it was, obviously fine. But I think in terms of transfers, like as a coach, I would love to recruit transfers just because they do have experience playing at the collegiate level. But I think maybe a con more would just be getting that player to buy into what you're doing, because I think for me, buying into, how they did things at NYIT compared to Dowling was always tough for me, just at the beginning, because it was like, the constant thought was like, well, I didn't have to do this at Dowling. Like, this is so annoying that I have to do this now because, and it kind of just was like a spiral, like in my own head, just like, well, I wouldn't have had to do this if I was at Dowling, and just like always comparing. But I think that that was just, in my situation, because a lot of the times with transfers, people want to leave where they're at. So I think that that's definitely just, specific to my situation where there was no chance for me to go back. So there was this constant comparison. But I think if somebody wants to transfer on their own will, then I think they're much easier to, like, buy into the new culture and everything like that.
Right. Yeah, because they want to be there as well too.
Yeah.
Not saying you didn't want to be there, but
Yeah, no, I didn't exactly, like, not saying I didn't want to be there at all, but it was just always a comparison of, like, if we had to do like a run test or, something like that, I'm like, oh, well, we didn't have to do this at Dowling. Like, it's like so annoying that I have to do
right.
it. Just like little thoughts like that. But obviously, once I got over that, which took me like a little bit, just adjusting to the whole, scenario and everything that happened. But, once then I found my way at NYIT, I just kind of, obviously went from there.
Right. And that's kind of an understatement because like you were a monster. Legit put fear in people's hearts. I've played beach volleyball against you and freaking do one of those goddamn spikes and I'm fucking shaking the entire time. But um, so so your first year, you guys won a conference championship. How far did you go in the NCAA tournament?
So I think that year, yeah, we were ranked number one in the East region.
Hmm.
And we were like, this is great. We're on track. We're gonna go back to the Elite Eight. And unfortunately, we lost and did not, but we lost to AIC and they made it to the Elite Eight. So I feel better knowing that they had a really good team that year.
Did
Um,
they?
yeah, no, I would say that they definitely had a good team. And you know, yeah, we just couldn't get the job done. I don't really remember like specifics, but I just remember like we lost to AIC in the second round. So we beat, I think, a Delphi in the first round, made it to the Sweet 16, and then I think we lost to AIC. So, I mean,
Wow.
we did win, or maybe it was the third round. I don't remember, because I remember we played Bridgeport and then a Delphi and then AIC. I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I remember playing maybe like 3 games or 2 games and then losing.
Yeah.
But we also, since we were the host, like we were supposed to be, because we were number one, our gym wasn't big enough to host. So we had
Right.
to go back up to Damon because they were the 2 seed. And that was like a whole big scenario, because like we obviously were the 1 seed, like earned the right to host, and then we had to travel the furthest possible place, which was like Damon, 8 hours away. But we had just won a championship in that gym, because that's where we won the ECC championship. So we were like feeling really confident about it. I like to joke and say that I played more games at the Damon, like in the Damon gym, than at Dowling. um, Literally, like in that gym, I think I've played more games than at Dowling. So I just think like, we did have a lot of confidence, but we did end up, unfortunately losing to AIC, but they did have a good team that year. So
Well, I mean, you did only play at Dowling for a year, and then your school shut down. So I mean, like, it's probably pretty close.
I
But
know, I've been wanting to look it up, but honestly, there's not even
well,
probably.
you can't look it up because there's nothing on Google
I
anymore.
know, I
I
know.
looked. Trust me, I looked it up. It's like I was like, I gotta do a little bit of research. Like, obviously, like I've known you for a couple years now, so it's like I kind of have an understanding of like what you accomplished and didn't accomplish. But it's like I should probably like at least refresh my memory a little bit. And these freaking like I thought at least Tech would like at least have something because they're only shut down their athletic programs for like 2 years, I think, right? They took down their whole athletics website. I'm like, what? I'm like, why? It's like,
That was the biggest hit, I think, to me. Like, I'm used to, at that point, I was used to, the schools, letting me down, I guess. But, just to have the whole entire, like what I did wiped out. I think that now, though, I don't think there's any pictures or videos or anything, but I think there's like an archive somewhere, like deep within NYIT.
Yeah, I'm sure you can actually probably find something on the ECC website because
Yeah,
they'll
all the
probably have
information's on there.
information there. I probably should have looked there too, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
no, it's all on the ECC website.
yeah,
Sure, they have that, and then like in terms of games and stuff, the NCAA has, if we made it to the championship, they usually have like a list of the teams, and you can kind of see,
mhm,
I think, on there like the game schedule and stuff. But that was
right.
years ago now. That was literally like 5 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, and then backtracking a little bit. So what? So how well did you guys do your second year then? Did you guys then made another? I know your senior year you guys had a tough one, right? That was the year you guys didn't make the. Yeah, I know it's probably
So no, I'll talk
probably
about it. I'll talk about it. So the next year we only graduated two people. So we graduated our middle, Rachel Guida, and then Lana. So there were two people that graduated. So we pretty much had the whole team returning for my junior season. So we were really, excited about that. We all obviously had played together for a season. We won the championship. We did well. So we were really looking to, continue that. And I would say we did well. As I don't really remember that one. I remember losing the championship game. So like we had a good run for sure. Definitely picked up, I think, during playoffs. We played post and we beat them in five, which was a really tough game. And then the next day we had to play Malloy for the championship. And I think Malloy played like a 3-set match. So like they definitely and they won like really easily the day before. So I'm not making any excuses, but it was definitely like we played a long 5-set match, like really intense, and then had to play the championship game the next day. So that was kind of like tough, I would say. Like definitely felt a little bit, more tired than if we were, fresh. But also I think the pressure of repeating that championship was a lot. And Malloy had never won a championship, so they had a whole different energy, kind of like how we did the year before. And they had a new coach. They had Soda, who ended up getting D2 Coach of the Year for the whole ABCA. So he's a great coach. He was my coach at Dowling, actually, and then he went and coached for Malloy. And then
gotcha.
we lost to them in the championship game. And then I don't know if they made it. No, they didn't. Okay, but then yeah. Anyways, so they had a really good team that year. New coach, all that. They were going having a historic season. So we didn't win the ECC championship that year, but then we did. I think we were at New Haven and we played I think one or two games into the NCAA tournament, but we didn't end up winning that year either. But I think that also just came to us playing together for so long as well. Just like our team, I would say, and get to a certain point where it's like kind of, I wouldn't say stagnant, but people knew what to expect. Like losing that middle, like Rachel Guida, I think losing her was really really key, because it kept people guessing on the offense. And so we were really outside heavy my junior year. It was me and Kaya Matarova, who were great, like literally awesome. Everyone was like, oh yeah, the 1-2 punch of tech. But like it was pretty much our offense was coming out of the outside, and people knew to block the outside. And then there was really, that would be the game plan. So it was just kind of like once people caught on, I guess, to that, it was a little bit tougher to get past that. So
Well, that's the interesting part about what you're alluding to is like, you know, for 1 year, it's like you lost like two players, and it's like, oh, you're bringing back your whole team. Most people would think on paper, it's like, oh, they're gonna do so well, but it's not about like who you have sometimes returning. It's about like it may be two players, but how crucial were the two players they had that graduated to that team. And what you're alluding to with like Rachel's, like she was a wild card and she kind of brought a lot to the table for you guys, and losing her was probably a key piece into maybe some games maybe you would have won, maybe not. No one would know. But um, so now kind of go moving forward. So after your senior year, you get the ECC Conference Player of the Year. How did that feel? Because that must have been awesome. Because that's not a that's I say this a lot. It's about people like that. That's an accomplishment. Getting like a player of the week in your conference is super cool. But getting like the player of the year, like that's a difficult one to get, because it's not like high school where it's like you get like, you know, like some awards where it's like, oh, you're like player of the year for like your division or something. You know, some of those kids are scrubs that you play in high school. When you go to college, it's a whole different story. So what was it like to hear that you got the award, and then what was like your first initial thought? um,
So it was actually interesting because my senior season, unfortunately, we didn't even make conference playoffs,
mhm,
and that's somewhere we've always been. And then we make it to the NCAA. So my season was over beginning of November, which
mhm,
usually we're halfway through December, if not around Christmas time, where we're finishing the season. So really cut short. And that was like the end of my volleyball career. So I was really my senior season, really looking forward to it. And the Player of the Year award is something that I had wanted since literally I was a freshman. Like just knowing about this award, like is something that I wanted to strive to achieve. And so, going into every game, I would always be like, all right, I'm going to try and get as many kills as I can get. That was like my goal literally for every game is I'm going to get, 20 kills. I'm going to get this many kills. So, you know, just having that constant mindset, I think, is what got it. And then, being able to play full all the way around. So 6 rotations, my senior year, like adding that defense piece, I think really is what brought it together because I was always, very offensive. I would just play the 3 rotations in the front and then be subbed out in the back just because we had really great defense every year. So, being able to play all the way around my senior year, really tie in the offense and defense, I think really is what, allowed me to, be in that category for the award. But I think getting the award and not making conference playoffs was like it was a really good feeling, I think, for me. Like, and just I didn't even think that it would happen. I kind of like accepted it once the season was over. I'm like, well, there's no chance now because they're not going to give it to a team. They're not going to give it to me on a team that we didn't even make the playoffs for the conference. So I just kind of was like sitting with that a little bit. And then, they actually called me and Jamie Yonker, who was actually the Libero of the Year and Rookie of the Year that year as well. So they called us into the conference room at Tech and they were like, you're going to Buffalo tomorrow. We're flying you there and flying you back in one day. You guys got awards. And we're like, okay. Like, so I thought it was like, all conference or something. And then once we get there, we ended up like almost sweeping all the major awards and we weren't and we weren't even in the playoffs. And it was just the looks on other people's faces. Like, it was just like, they were like, oh, why are they here? Like, why are 2 people from Tech here? And then we ended up literally taking home like 3 out of the 4 major awards for the conference. It was honestly crazy feeling.
I couldn't even imagine. There must have been so many of those girls that were so pissed, and you're just saying,
I just
you're,
thought it was just crazy because like we kind of like showed up like swept and then left like in the same day. Like they all had the tournament to play because there's a banquet at the beginning of the conference playoffs, and
yeah.
so that's when they give all the awards. So we were at that, and then they were just like, "Why are they here?" And then they announced us, and we got
It's funny
and
because
it's
it's
like, "All
like,
right, bye." Like it was.
it's funny because you could just be like, oh, you're going to a conference tournament. That's cute. It's like, I've won one of those. Oh, you're going to the NCAA tournament. That's cool. I've been there a couple times. Have you won player of the year though? Don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just very like it really made, even though we didn't have a good season,
Yeah.
it was good. Like I felt accomplished in that sense. The
Hmm.
goal for me was like all American for sure. Like, and I think if like we would have made it into the NCAA tournament, then that would have happened. But we just unfortunately didn't because my stats were literally like third in the nation in kills and stuff like that. Like I was up there, but it just was like because the team didn't make it. So like I think in that sense too is what kind of made me not expect to get player of the year in the conference. because like I knew like, oh, if our team didn't make it, then they're not going to kind of give it to me, which is what happened, in the for the All-American sense.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it was definitely just, at least I can
Right.
I can get some like closure, but also like, achievement,
Yeah.
I guess, for what I tried. So
Yeah, I mean,
that goal.
yeah, and that's the thing about like college athletics is like there's always going to be the politics side of it in a sense of like, oh, like, yeah, she got conference player of the year, but she didn't make it to the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. So therefore she's not going to get like the all region team or an all American award because she didn't get them that far. But it's
Yeah.
like,
No, I mean, I did get I was all
you
region.
did get all region. Okay.
Yeah, I was first team all region 3 years I think my sophomore,
Right.
year and senior year. But so like that's what it is. Like I got all region, but it was just like that next step of like if your team is the best in the region, then they usually pick like who's the
Right.
All-American, because then it's like throughout all the 8 regions or whatever.
Right.
So that's what,
Exactly.
like that step we didn't unfortunately get to, which was my goal, and we're used to getting there, so that's why it was like a logical goal at the time.
Right.
But just unfortunately came up short. But
Mhm.
nothing you can do about it. It's a team
Yeah.
sport.
So you had some closure, but then you got some bad news after that, which is like it didn't affect you because you were graduating, but it affected the program itself. Your coach comes in and announces that the volleyball program is being cut along with, I think, both tennis programs, right? Which is baffling to me because when I when when I recall Tech from like my athletic experiences, at least on a tennis standpoint, like Tech had like usually two of the best tennis teams in the region, men's and women's, and volleyball was always up there too. So did that like that again, not like this is how crazy your volleyball career is in a sense that way. It's like, another school is like fully getting rid of the sport that, you grinded for the last 4 years. Was that a tough pill to like swallow just because of the other girls that were still on the team and coming back for like another or were planning on coming back for another year?
Yeah, so I mean, the day that all happened, was, the athletic director. So my coach actually didn't know either. So she was planning on retiring because, like I said, she was there for over 30 years. She had her run like with the whole Elite Eight, then with the conference championship, whatever. Like, and so she was gonna be done. My senior year, she was gonna retire, right? And she's like, it's time for someone else. She wanted to just do administrative work at Tech. Like, she didn't want to coach anymore, so she was going to retire from that and then just focus on doing administrative work at the school. And so she announced that. And then I don't know if it was like the week later, like I'm not sure on timeline, but then next thing I know is just Dan Velez, who is our AD, calling, the volleyball team and then the 2 tennis teams into like our yoga room. We would like do yoga in like the SAC. And he like made an announcement. He's like, there are good days and bad days in athletic departments. Today, unfortunately, is one of those bad days. And then was like, we're dropping the volleyball team and the tennis teams. Like, I'm like, sorry. Like, and then I was just like I couldn't even believe what was occurring. Like, I was just like, what? And then because like we had just made this whole like video sequence of like honoring coach like Gail Wasmus and her, like how was she as a coach, all this other stuff, like looking up for the program, like finding a new like all this stuff was like going on, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it was like, we're dropping these 3 teams. It was like, I don't know. So that to me was very it was kind of like a repeat. I don't know, I was very upset because it was just like, what I put, my time and effort to. I broke records here. Like, I really wanted to leave my mark so that way, people coming after me, like, just, I really wanted to leave my mark at Tech, and which I did. And, and then for that to just stop there and not have anybody come after, like, it just is just a sad feeling. Like, there'll never be like an alumni day. Like, I can't go back and watch, the rest of my teammates finish out their careers. Like, it's just stuff like that that's just kind of sad, like and that's why I think I got so like emotional when that decision happened, is just because thinking about all that stuff that I would now miss out on in the future because there was no team, I think is what. And like I didn't have that, obviously at Dowling because there was nothing that existed, but just the thought of Tech also having other sports, just not volleyball. Like that's just was like a hit. Like it just felt like a personal hit. But it now is happening more than ever with the impacts of COVID on schools. So people are dropping programs left and right. But at the time it was definitely hard to hard to you know
Well, I mean, that's like that's the thing that bothers me about like administrations half the time, because it's like here are and using Tech as the example, here are three programs that are well established, have very good track records, you know, are usually making tournaments left and right. And like, are they the biggest sports programs in at the school? No, it's tough to compete with like a basketball program, baseball, stuff like that. But it's like, you know, and then this isn't a knock on like, the basketball program or the baseball program that Jake played on, but it's like they weren't good for even the bat like I think especially like the basketball team too. They weren't even making conference playoffs. So it's like I get that those are like your big sports that you need to have, but it's like for crying out loud, you're cutting probably your best three sports that you have at the school, whether or not it's like, you know, the most popular ones, that doesn't matter. It's like you've now lost like credibility. Like now it's like, say you ever brought them back, it's like you don't have the credibility anymore, and it's like you kind of lost trust in the athletic department now too, because it's like, wow, they cut three amazing programs. It's like what's next? And I mean, we'll get into like a little bit down the road what happened next. But my next thing I wanted to get into is like you graduated, you got your bachelor's degree, and then you decide I want to take I want to go to grad school, and I want to go where I've never been before and go to Southern New Hampshire and go to grad school at UNH. I mean, I know a big portion of the reason why you went up there. Um, oh, come on, don't no.
No, Dan. The
What do you
reason I
mean?
went up there is because it was a good opportunity. And I even
I
asked.
I didn't say hey, hold on a sec. I didn't say like I didn't say it was the main reason. I just said that played a portion.
I mean, it was definitely a plus. It definitely was like on the pro list of when I'm making my decision.
All right.
But it just so happened, like I didn't even know where UNH was. Like
Well, that's my
literally had
point.
no clue. Like, because I was looking at Franklin Pierce too for a while, like and I
Yeah.
was the GA there, and where you obviously went there, so you know where
Yeah.
that is. And then I like looked up where it was, and I was just like, I don't think I could make that much of a culture shock. Like, I don't think I could do that.
No.
And so then when UNH, became an option, I thought it was going to be something like that as well because of New Hampshire. That's just what I thought. And so then I'm like, Jake, where is UNH? Because I decided and then it ended up being 25 minutes from where he lives. I'm like, well, this is just gonna work out, and it worked out. So then I came up here, yeah. But
Okay. All right. Then I won't be that like
yeah, that's why I'm like, no, Dan. But
okay. But I mean, I didn't know that part too. But it's like if I like excluding that information, like you can't blame me for thinking it's like, well, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
no, I
Like,
know, I know. That's what
but
most people think,
but
though.
but it's definitely like it definitely helped the decision a little bit more. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it. Like
Okay.
and the decision for me to go to grad school was, I actually did track and field at Tech, which this also, back on the whole subject of they dropped the programs and everything, they added a track and field team And that was for me what was just like didn't make sense, is because it's like, why are you adding an even bigger team if you're going to cut 3 of your successful teams? And we didn't even have a track at Tech to practice on. So they're just like, it didn't really make sense to do that. And so, I was part of the track team, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I can go and do track somewhere for grad school. And so then that was like my first thought. And then, this opportunity at UNH came for me to coach volleyball. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like, I'll do that. Like, I don't need to do track. But
I completely forgot you ran track after you graduated. Oh my God. Wow. I'm glad you brought that up, because that literally like went over my head up until now. Talking about multi-athlete, Jesus.
I did track. I did the long jump and the triple jump and the high jump. So I was just a jumper really. But at Tech I like never really could practice because we didn't have a place to practice. So we'd go to like local high schools or try and do I would just try and do drills and stuff. And because I did track in high school, pretty like my whole high school career. So I was like, oh yeah, I've done this before. Like, let me try it. Like, they're starting a track team. Why not? So then I did track. I ended up getting all conference in the triple jump for winter and spring seasons. So I was like, let's go. Like, it was just kind of like crazy. So that's why I was like, maybe I can do this for grad school. And then, I didn't end up doing it for grad school.
Yeah. It makes someone
short-lived, little, all right, I guess I'll do track. I don't know.
Way to nicely like talk about like how great your athletic accomplishments were, and then like just make me in the back of my head be like, oh man, I fucking sucked.
Why?
No, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm just like, shit. It's like, I was like, she just walked on the track team and just got a couple all conference awards. It's like, I could barely win a goddamn match in collegiate tennis. But
no, I was upset though. I wanted to get first team all conference for the triple jump.
Oh, for crying out
loud! I was
bored.
How they did the all conference though. So see, I'll explain it though, because it's not like, so good. It was like how you placed at the conference meet would determine if you were all conference. So like I placed like 4th, I think. It was like the top 3 people in the event were first team all conference, and then like the next 3 were second team. So like I got second team because I came in like 4th, right? So like that's how they determine it. So it's not like oh, she, like, you know what I mean? It's not like they pick people. Like, it's just like how you place in the event is what determines if you're on the conference team. So I got like 4th, and so I'm saying like I was mad I didn't get first team, because I was like, that would be really cool if I could get like 3rd place, and I was like 1/10 or something like off, or like 2/10. I was like, dang, like of like gymming it. But I mean, I don't know. It was a fun time.
You got an all conference award. I don't feel bad.
I guess, I don't know. It was just like, so like, I don't know. It was definitely just a I don't know, just a little goal.
You got double, triple the amount of conference awards that I ever got. So you know what? You're fine. You're fine. You're good. You don't need any more. No. Pierce was the same way though with track and field. We didn't have a track either, so it's like they had to go to, I think, Conant High School, which was like down the road from us, and wasn't like a great track or anything, but that's all they had. I mean, we had an indoor track for the winter time for them, but it wasn't like a full size track. It was like, I think it was like 8-9 laps or something was a mile. So like, and it was not a good track at all. It would like it's one of those like surfaces where it's like almost like it's like this slick, rubbery, hard surface where it takes a toll on your legs.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is kind of similar to what Tech had. It was like not concrete, but like,
well, it was like, it's, you know what the surface was like is the gym at Tech, like before they put the hardwood in.
Yeah. I love that floor. I loved it.
Yeah, but it takes a toll on. I mean, you're doing short movements for volleyball. It's like not extensive running. If you're doing like
extensive,
if you're doing like long distance stuff, like that's going to take a toll on, your feet, your legs, etc. So, but yeah, I completely forgot about the track and field thing. And
I did too, I literally did too, until you were like saying reasons for like going up to grad school and stuff, then I'm like, wait a minute, I did track, and I'm like, and that's the reason I wanted to go to grad
And
school.
and not only did you like get walk on the track and field team, like you actually did well too, which is like, oh my god, it's like how like what, you can just do any sport you want and just get an all conference award because you're Tiff Verni.
No,
Purely athletic. I'm
I'm
telling.
good at golf. I can't even hit the golf ball off the tee, Dan.
Well,
Golf, no thanks. I'll stay away from that.
all right, fair enough. Yeah, and then back to the Pierce thing when we were talking about it. I kind of agree with you. That's definitely, if you're not mentally prepared for it, and this isn't like a knock on you or anything, but I think you've been in Long Island for so long at that time, that would have been a major step for you. And that would have been very difficult because there's no dominoes. there's not all these cool places to go out and check out and so on.
Yeah.
You got a gas station in the morning to go get coffee. You got a Market Basket in a Hannaford down the road. You got I think it's just or maybe a taco. Okay, they do have a KFC Taco Bell in Ridge, so I think you would have been fine there.
If they would have told me that, then I would have went there. If there was a Taco Bell right down the road, all I heard was like the movie theater and the grocery store are 20 minutes away, and I was like, there's only one grocery store, and like after that, I was kind of like, all right, maybe that's not the place to really go.
No, we had two grocery stores that were like 5 minutes down the road, so it's like that's it. I don't know who told you that, but that's an exaggeration. Okay. The movie theater, however, is in Worcester, Mass, which we're on the border of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. So that was as a whole, or was it Worcester, Mass, or Wachusett? It was Wachusett. I lied. There's a movie theater in Wachusett, which is 20 minutes away. So that's a little bit like that I can agree upon. The closest like quote on like my definition of city and your definition of city are completely different because you actually grew up in a city. I did not. So Keene, New Hampshire is by definition a city. It's not really a city. It's like a smaller version of Portsmouth, and they have like that's where people would go out. But it's like you don't go out there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights because it's a 30-minute drive, and there's no Uber down that or in that area at all. So it's like you got to find someone to DDU, and that's a struggle in of itself. But I think UNH was probably the better bet because it had Portsmouth there. It like Dover was right over there too, and you were living in Durham at the time, so it was like a win-win for you. But you had an interesting living situation at the time.
No, Dan, I don't, it just makes sense though. Like me, like this is just story of my life, so, like you said, I wouldn't have been able to do it, I don't think, at Franklin Pierce just because, like, just the environment. Durham was very more, like, I was like, perfect, like, this is great. Like, I can definitely see myself, like you said, like, fitting in better here. And so what I wanted to do was, get to know people because the only people that I knew up here were literally you and then Jake and his family. So, I was like, I want to be able to make friends, like, right off the bat. And, being in a GA spot, I think is very difficult just because it's not like I could be friends with, undergraduates or students. And I really, can I be friends with, the people that work there? Like it was kind of like a weird at first, what's gonna happen, I think. And so I was like, let me get my own apartment. So then I wanted to live like right on campus just to make sure that I can really, get a feel for what was gonna happen, like what I was gonna do, like, and just be available at all times because I wanted to just, obviously be able to do the best job and be the most accessible. So I get an apartment right, near campus in like this complex, and it's like a 4-person like apartment. You've been there, so you get your own room, your own bathroom. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like maybe I'll be with other grad students. I like said specifically to the people because they would rent to students. I was like, I just can't be with undergraduates. I was like, if you could put me with graduates or other people, that's fine, but I just cannot be with undergraduate students in this housing. And they're like, perfect, yeah, sure, like we'll put you with graduate students. I'm like, all great, all right. So then I end up living with a married couple, their bearded dragon, and some girl that I'm not even kidding. If she passed me on the street, I wouldn't even know what she looked like. But at least she paid me for the utilities every month. But I literally have no clue what she looks like. And I lived with that married couple and their bearded dragon.
So you were in charge of doing like paying for the rent and so on. They gave you money.
So the leasing people from the place, like we paid them for rent like separately.
Okay.
So the utilities though were in my name because I moved in first. So then I like had to start up, you know, the utilities and everything. So they would like have to Venmo me or whatever for the utilities, which honestly it was really easy. Like the place gave you who to set it up with. Like you didn't have to find anybody. It was kind of just like through, you know, all you just wouldn't pay it to the leasing office or whatever. So you would just have to, I would just have it in my name. But I would get the bills every month and then they'd pay me, which, you know, honestly went fine. Like nobody ever didn't pay me. But it was just like so funny because it's like their like whoever's Venmo like didn't have their picture. So it was like just like I didn't know what this girl looked like and still wouldn't to this day. She just
So you never saw her, is what you're saying?
no, like even when she moved in, because she actually moved in half the year. So half the year it was just the married couple and me. And then she moved in. Actually, maybe she moved in around like November.
Right.
Because I really didn't stay there because then COVID hit, and I really didn't stay there. I was living with Jake, and like from March on. So I really didn't live there past that.
Right.
Because of COVID and everything. But yeah, when I did live with them, it was definitely an interesting experience. I was like maybe I could have got put with other grad students, you know, I don't know. But then it was just like, no.
Well, they put you with grad students, all right. They put you with a married couple. It's like that's as graduate student as you can get. And by the way, my favorite story about you living there was, I think this was like maybe the first or second time I went there. It was like it was me, you, Jake, and then Ashley. I think we were coming back. We were either getting ready to go or coming back from the UNH football game because you guys got free tickets and stuff. So we came back and we were like figuring out, oh, what are we gonna do tonight and so on. And we started drinking in the living room, and the husband came downstairs. And for people that are listening, like mind you, like this guy isn't like 40 years old. This guy's like maybe late 20s, I would say. And when I tell you, like, this guy is never this guy like probably has had maybe 2 or 3 beers in his lifetime. Like he has literally had 2 or 3 beers in his lifetime. We offered him a drink. He had maybe 1 full beer and he was in banana land. Like this guy like was off his rocker off of like a like Truly seltzer or whatever.
I think it was
and we're all sitting there like, what is happening right now? Like he's like laughing and like he's having a great time. Like he wasn't like a bad person or anything, but we were all just like, what is going on? And his wife comes down. It's like, all right, we need to put you to bed. It's like, it's 4 o'clock, woman.
That was so funny. He was filling up the White Claw can with water and then he was drinking it.
Yeah, I was like, that's not gonna help anything. It's like that's just gonna make it worse.
That was funny. Yeah, but I would say that's like the only time I've ever hung out with them. Was that day.
And then they brought
that day when we played Jenga. That was literally the
day. Then they brought that terrifying fucking bearded dragon out too. Never touch it. Like I'm never touching anything like. Well, actually, I'd never actually touch anything like that ever again because Luke had that freaking lizard thing in his room, and I'm like, I'm not touching shit like that ever again. Those things
I didn't hold that bearded dragon either.
Yeah, it's gross. But yeah, so you graduate, COVID hits. Well, actually, no, hold on a second. You didn't graduate when COVID hit. Well, sort of. But I mean, you got the coaching gig though at UNH. How hard was that transition? Like, did you find that to be hard at all, or was it, pretty smooth and you're getting the hang of things?
So I had coached like club before.
Hmm.
And obviously from playing and everything, I kind of had the gist of it. But UNH, I would say, especially being a Division 1 school, and me coming from a Division 2 school, I think that was what was intimidating to me at first.
Right.
And I was just so grateful, for the opportunity to be there. And I just was like trying to take it all in, absorb as much information that I could, really try and develop, because I knew I wanted to coach. So, and that just kind of made it even more clear once I started, preseason, all that, like just loved every minute of it. And I think, my biggest challenge was the players being like similar age to me, because, we had a lot of seniors on the team, and they were, some of them were even the same age as me. So just kind of, gaining their respect just in that matter of like, hey, like, I'm your coach kind of thing. Like, I think that was just my biggest challenge. I don't think that it was like, and I don't think it was an issue in any way. Like, but I think like in terms of transitioning, that was the biggest thing, just to kind of like set, a, level, just trying to get like a level of respect, I guess, gain their respect and everything, would be, I think, the biggest thing for transitioning. But
Right. And how was your experience? I mean, it wasn't, see, that here's the tough thing about like your situation too, and I think a lot of people's situation, because I had Elaine Backshelder on here. She played at Temple, and she transferred there from Stonehill College, and she lost basically an entire season to COVID, and it's like you were kind of going to be there for 2 years and coach, and you really only got you got a season for volleyball, but it wasn't the same thing as what it usually is. Um, did you ever find that difficult at all, or
yeah, I would just say, I don't really know. I think, with everything that had happened to me in the past, this wasn't really like a surprise. Like, it wasn't really like a surprise, like I'm used to adjusting, when situations don't go as planned. So I think this is just kind of another thing to add, to the tool belt, is just like, okay, now we dealt with COVID. And I think, at times it was difficult, just like, I would say more on the academic side than on like the coaching side. I think, definitely seeing the players being upset and just, knowing that they're going to miss out on the opportunity. I think that for me was definitely the hardest on the coaching side. And like, just, kind of guiding them through that. And, this whole, like, we're all in this together, attitude and mindset, just try and keep them like motivated, because I think it's very, especially when we're in the fall of this past year, and we didn't know if we were going to have a spring season. We didn't know if we were going to get any games. We didn't know what was going to go on. And I think, just trying to keep the motivation of like, yes, we're going to potentially like compete in the spring. We're going to compete in the spring. But like, I think that was the hardest part for me, was, not promising them something, but like not knowing if we would be able to deliver on it. And I think, that's why I bring up my past experience, because it's like, I do coaching because I want to make the student athlete experience better, and like make, them enjoy their experience. And so I'd never want to like promise them like, oh yeah, we're going to have a season in the spring, we're going to do all this. And then like, it doesn't end up happening. And it's like, they got their hopes up for nothing, so like that I think was the most challenging part of, the coaching aspect for me with COVID and everything.
yeah, and that's a the situation too with that as well is like, you know, you can't set the bar high because it's a level of uncertainty, because it's like you didn't know when these girls were going to get an opportunity to get back on a volleyball floor again. But the nice part was I'm glad they figured something out. It wasn't like, obviously it wasn't what people probably envisioned, but at least the NCAA and UNH and other schools made the effort to do so.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was great that we were able to play, a conference schedule in the spring. I think it was well needed, and like the best, scenario that we could have got at the time. So I think
Mhm.
we're very thankful for that. So.
Well, it's, people got to understand too. It's like, you know, and I think there's, so parents like mine, and this isn't a knock on my parents or anything, like the whole concept of like college athletics is like, it is like for them, it's like you need, school comes first and so on. And I totally get that. But it's like, it's so difficult to like just take something away, like away from someone where they've been doing it for so long now. And it's like, it's a piece of their livelihood. And, once that final year of eligibility and the last game hits, it's like, for the most part, unless you're playing at a high Division I level for something, and you're going to be a professional athlete, chances are you're never going to play at a competitive level like that ever again. And that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. So
I did all my research on for my master's.
yeah, so it's tough to cope with, and it's tough to just kind of like pack it up and just be like, oh, have fun in the real world.
Yeah.
That's not easy for anyone, and it's tough for people to grasp. And I think, yeah, I think the way probably, I think if anyone, it's probably like to be in a situation like you where you've had that happen to you not once but twice, and to have kind of like a coach where they can like actually understand where someone's coming from in that sense. I think that must have been huge for them, super helpful.
Yeah, that's again why I wanted to be a coach, is because my coaches are the people that got me through all that. Like when the programs were dropping, all that, like my coaches were always there, and it wasn't the administration, like those were the people making the decisions. So I really like when people are like, oh, like where do you see yourself in 10 years? I'm like, okay, well, I see myself as a coach. Like I think being a volleyball coach is what I want to do. And they're like, oh, do you want to do like administration or another thing? And I'm just like, no, like I want to stay as a coach. Like I think that is where I want to be. So just I don't,
yeah, no, I see it too. I think I think that's something you've been wanting to do for a while now, and I think you're taking the right steps for it. So when you graduated though, because you were like, you're still, I mean, graduate assistant job's off the table now, because I mean you graduated from grad school, so it was like UNH offered you a job, but you decided not to take it, right? That's what it was.
So, yeah. So it was like Ashley, who was the assistant coach at UNH,
Right.
she was leaving. And then the head coach was like, hey, like we've talked about, me moving into her role if she were to leave. So he did offer it, to me. And then I was like, oh, like, I'm looking elsewhere because, for me this early in my coaching career, I kind of wanted to experience, elsewhere, like athletic departments elsewhere, really get, more experience, I think, somewhere like just honestly elsewhere under my belt. And because I think just from my experiences working with coaches in general, like even Gail being at NYIT for a while, like, and people being elsewhere, I think I want to be able to be the most well-rounded coach. So I think now, like, and I think where I see myself, like I said earlier, is at that Division II level. So I want to also get experience. I've had 2 years now experience at the Division I level, kind of know what it's about, know the ropes. And so now I kind of want to go, Division II level and, see if I could be an assistant there, like something like that, just to kind of get, more experience this early. And then if I find a place that I really like, then stay there and, grow my career and have that somewhere. But definitely while I'm younger now and really continuing to develop my coaching philosophy, I really want to, get a lot of different experiences. So,
well, I mean, you might even be surprised too. I mean, I know you just took a job with New Haven. We'll get into that in a second too. It's like so we have at Pierce, there's a new, well, not, well, yeah, a year, she's a year in now, but Kate Sweeney, who is the women's lacrosse coach for Franklin Pierce, she graduated a year before we did. And her and her sister, twins, both went to Franklin Pierce, incredible athletes. Actually, I think they're from New York as well too, maybe Long Island. I'm not.
Yeah, the name sounds familiar once you
Yeah, for like incredible lacrosse players. And when she graduated, she kind of did the same thing. I think she did grad school at fuck, what am I forgetting the school she did? Um, but she did that. She did a graduate assistant position for a year, and then Pierce offered her a head coaching job. So she's head coach at 25. So it's like you may be surprised. It's like, especially at the D2 level, like people are, the turnaround for that's pretty quick. So people are always looking at times. So there may be an opportunity that comes that you might even be thrown by surprise for. So, but now getting into New Haven, so you had you were looking at jobs. I know Holy Cross was on the table. You were thinking about, obviously, I don't know if did you end up getting offered it, or did they,
so
I don't know if that's a touchy subject or all.
yeah, no, it's not touchy at all. I think
Okay.
this is why I'm emphasizing, I think, experience a lot, and experience elsewhere is just because I did like end up, making it into like the final rounds of that interviews and stuff, and it pretty much just came down to experience. So she even said if there was like a second assistant position open, then I could be the second assistant at Holy Cross. It was just like strictly on experience level and stuff. And right now, because of COVID, a lot of places, you know, either drop programs, people are moving around like crazy, and a lot more experienced people are now applying to jobs that they necessarily wouldn't have before. Like the applicant pool is so strong right now, just because people are moving all over the place, which I totally understand. And for me at first, that was like a long shot of an option to apply for, and I was very thankful that she even considered me for it. So to make it to be one of the finalists in that application process was straight straight out of being a GA, I think was I'm so grateful for that. And I love her. Love
Yeah.
Kevin. Voice said Holy Cross, shout out to her, but she's awesome. And I'm really looking for someone that I can learn and grow from as a coach. So I really that's what I'm now hoping for at New Haven. Haven't really like committed yet to that, because trying to figure out just housing and everything like that. But really excited for that potential opportunity. So
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for you
yeah,
too, especially from what we've talked about
yeah,
prior to, where it's like they're kind of looking, their D2 school kind of looking to do maybe the D1 route down the line too. So yeah, and it's how is New Haven close to the New York border? Or is that kind of deep? Oh, it is close.
so it's actually I think I looked it up, and from where I'm from, I think it's like 2 hours, like with no traffic. But there's obviously always traffic. But it's like right at like the Bridgeport ferry. I think it's like 30 miles from that, or like so like half hour from that or something.
Well, it's
So
better than what the 3-hour drive it is to, if you want to go visit family from like Durham, so a little bit different. But
yeah,
no, that'll be a great opportunity. Like, congrats! Like that's awesome, especially the age you're at right now too. Like, I think after this one, you're gonna have a lot more opportunities coming your way, because, like you said, the experience thing plays a major role. So, you know, the future is bright, very very
yeah.
bright,
No,
right?
I'm definitely hoping for that.
Hmm.
Just being able, like, getting involved in the East region and stuff is where I want to be.
Right. So the last topic I want to get into, and I've held it for a while, and this is getting back into the whole COVID thing. This, kind of like the storyline of your career, where it's like, oh, everything, oh, my program after program after program gets cut. So COVID hits in 2020. We, no sports, nothing for most of these people. They're given the year of eligibility back for the seniors that were going to graduate. Tech sends out an Instagram post in August stating, uh, we are suspending athletics for 2 years. It's a two-part question. Because I talked to Jake a little bit about this too, and I think everyone has their own opinion on it. But do you think that was the right way to announce it? And then B, um, I can't see Tech like being sustainable as a college for without any athletics for that long. You could you see Tech going, kind of having the same story as Dowling?
Um, I think my opinion on the whole thing was shocking, for sure. I think, when we got the new president at the school, Hank Foley, I think he definitely was trying to change things within athletics. At first, it seemed like, he had a bigger picture, by adding track and really wanting to, expand. And, that was the reasoning for the dropping of volleyball and tennis, because they didn't bring in as many people as track team would. Like track team would bring in hundreds, of student athletes. They're trying to bring more people. So I kind of got that. But, now when they dropped all the sports, it was so sad, honestly. I was like the number one stan for baseball. Like I was at every and like they did so well. And so like for me it was like, okay, they dropped volleyball, but now baseball was still the thing that would keep me as an alumni. It would keep me donating, like just to the athletic department. Just I loved everyone in the athletic department, like Junior Salazar and Danny Hagen. Like I loved everyone that worked there, like they were great. And I wasn't just gonna, you know, turn sour on the people that, also helped me get to where I am, just not in a volleyball sense. So, I could still support the athletic department in a different way, especially with the baseball team and everything like that as well, So I think now not having that at all, I think, yeah, is a loss for sure for NYIT. Not having dorms on campus is a big thing. And, athletics was what brought people there. And we even lived in the dorms in Old Westbury, so it was like that's what brought people there was their good athletics. Like the lacrosse team does really well, like both men's and women's, like, soccer team does really well. Like there's teams that do so well. And that's like, what kept, I think, people going there. I mean, also like the doctoral programs at NYIT and, architecture and all of that, engineering, that's, I think, what, obviously is what they're known for and everything like that. But I think also athletics was a huge part of that, and just having like people on campus because it's a huge commuter school. So I think maybe in terms of, getting kids to continue to get on campus, I think dropping athletics, if that was, if your goal was to bring more people to campus, I think dropping athletics was a huge, disservice to that goal. I don't think that would help, but, again, I'm not, the one calling those shots, but, and unfortunately, the president, I wish, would have maybe handled it in a different way. Even with the whole, deletion of the website and everything, at least keep that up. Just at least keep that up. If you say, yeah, we'll be back in 2 years, it's just, it just seems like there doesn't seem to be um a goal for them to come back, with the deletion of it and everything. Like they say, oh yeah, it's going to be for 2 years, suspended for 2 years, and then we'll come back. It's like you're going to rebuild it all. Like it just doesn't seem like that's actually the plan, which is the most, disappointing thing, I think, to hear.
Well, and here's an opinion from an outsider looking in, right? So for me, at a Division II level, right? So you look at the tiers of NCAA athletics. Division I is, you know, athletes are it's 100% investment time, and then school's kind of like second in a sense because that's how Division I athletics generally work, at least for the bigger schools. The small, like mid-level, smaller D1 schools might be a little bit of a different scenario, but generally that's how Division I sports work. Division II is a 50-50. Division III is academics, sports. And for a school like that, right, I don't know what the percentage looks like. my opinion from like looking at a peer's perspective, most of the time for small schools like that, it's usually a 50-50 student athletes, non-student athletes. And when you're cutting all those programs, that's 50% right there gone. It's like you better have a good commuter school program, and you better have some good academic programs that are set up. I mean, which it sounds like they do, but how sustainable is that going to be? You know, time will tell. And then on top of that too, um, when it's like, oh, we're gonna cancel athletic athletics for 2 years. No, you're not, because what just happened is you have now cut jobs for 2 years. People like, for instance, Frank Catalinato, he just got hired by Hofstra. He wasn't going to stay. He was going to wait around for 2 years to hopefully get his program back up and running. People aren't going to do that. And then on top of that, the athletes, they're not going to stay either. It's like, I'm not waiting 2 years for you guys to figure your shit out. It's like, I'm transferring out. And I think the majority of student athletes probably transferred, because it's like, why am I going to stay here and wait when, I have other schools that could be doing the same thing? And you feel bad for a couple reasons. You feel bad for the people that were going to be into their senior year, that were, maybe potentially waiting for that opportunity to, play their sport again. And then you feel bad for the incoming freshmen that signed and committed to go there and probably paid a year of tuition or something. And the school decides, oh yeah, we'll take your money, but sorry about the athletic thing. That's not a thing right now. It's like that, administration sometimes just like they don't have a level of respect for what athletics actually really does to a school. I get it's not like a D1 program where it's like not bringing in a ton of money in a sense of like merchandise and stuff like that, and like TV broadcasts and so on. But it brings in student population. That's like the main thing for a Division II school. But
I mean, it brings in student population. It also just brings in like a sense of community and gets people on campus, like I was saying, and
exactly.
it gets people to go support, just like builds just culture at the school. And now it's just going to be like a commuter school. I think the only thing that really keeps it like really going, I think, is the hospital that's on campus. There's
Right.
like a hospital on campus, but yeah, this yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the plan would be, but I unfortunately do see maybe going down, that road of, like like Dowling, and then that'd be like, I don't even know at that point. You get 2 for 2.
Yeah, you'll be a mythical legend in Division II sports on Long Island. We'll put it that way.
That's literally what I literally will ask that question though. Like, say right off the bat, like, is this school, how are they doing financially?
Yeah.
Because I'm like scarred now, like from this, and obviously with COVID and everything, there's been impacts. So I guess reframing the question of like, yeah, how has COVID impacted it? But definitely just like figuring that out before you go somewhere. Like, just as a recruit as well, if you're looking into colleges, just ask the question like, hey, like, is this somewhere that I can spend 4 years, or is this going to be is this going to be like financially, just the school as a whole? I think that asking that question is important.
I mean, it's a really valid point, to be honest with you. It's like, and I always kind of wondered that, and like, this isn't a knock on like Long Island schools or anything like that. There's so many of them that are so close by. I always wondered if like that was always going to be an issue, because I mean, you had LIU Post there. They merged with LIU Brooklyn recently. You had Dowling shut down. Who else is down there? Tech, and Tech's kind of got like a question mark above their school, where it's like, are they really going to be around for much longer, or are they just going to turn into like a community college in a sense too, where it's just a commuter school? And then Adelphi's kind of close by. You have who else? Queens. you know,
St. John,
yeah,
Stony Brook. There's like a
yeah,
million.
yeah.
Orange, like
There's a bunch of them. So it's like you're kind of I always had that. I always thought it was like that must be like kind of hard for like the schools that are like not as appealing as like a Stony Brook or like Hofstra and stuff like that. But
yeah, no, I totally get that, and I think you know maybe that's what Tech will do, maybe like a D3 type thing, but at the same time, it's like it's not like you could go and dorm there. Like it's still gonna be like a commuter school.
but it's like who would you? But who would they play though? Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
not a whole lot of D3 schools down that way.
Well, I mean, maybe like St. Joseph's College, so like the
Maybe.
Skyline Conference, but I think too, like for that, like St. Joseph's College is known for like teaching, and that's like right down the road from where I live. That's why I'm referencing it. But I don't know, like price wise, like I just think Tech is a very expensive school, and for it not to have sports now, like the audience, I don't know, like that's I think the part that's not going to be sustainable is that people can pay way less to go to, another Division 3 school that has sports or something, like or like another school that's another small school in the area that
It
has
has
sports.
it has more to offer because like you're saying, it's like you guys had dorms, but it was like they were really meant for like freshmen and sophomores, and then it was like go find a house. So
Yeah, well, it was also like not even on campus though either. Like you'd have to take a shuttle 10 minutes down the road, and they were at SUNY Old Westbury. So
yeah,
dorms were like at a different college. Like we would go to a different college, like and live.
yeah. So it's like you guys, I felt like you guys never really had like you guys had your own college experience, but it's like I don't think you had like an on-campus college vibe to the school, which must have
Yeah.
been very odd. So but we'll wrap it up here. I again thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm gonna see you in like a couple hours anyway. So
Flowers,
but,
hang up and then come over. What do you mean?
yeah, I know. But again, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It was probably long awaited. I know you and Jake were kind of the first two that were like sign me up. I want to be on here. So you have a very interesting story too, which I think a lot of people like that maybe are in the same situation as you can finally have someone that's like, oh, I can relate to this. So I think that's going to be super awesome.